Welcome back to another fresh episode of the Daddio Show. Come on, guys, let's give it up for part 3 of the Smash interview with Pastor Mark Dunn. My name is Harding and Ison-Bowman, and you're listening to the Daddio Show weekly podcast series, sort of a virtual mentoring session, not only for youth, specifically ages 14 to 24, but for father figures, daddios, mentors out there in the community who want to join forces with us and really listen in on these crucial conversations and hear some great ideas about what's working well out there, how people are doing well in the mentoring space, and how we can sort of best affect the lives of the future generation coming up. So listen, we're going to wrap it up strong with the third and final part of our interview with Pastor Mark Dunn here in Lexington, Kentucky. Here's what you can expect out of this last segment of the interview. Mark talks wisely about how to impart people skills and discernment of how to help young people. Not that we should preach to young people and sort of wag our finger and dictate what influences they should allow into their lives, but to help them evaluate for their own selves and think through how to pick which influences are good and bad and what kind of life they want to lead and what kind of people should be in that to line up with what they're going for. We also have some interesting thoughts about, the time we're living in and, how to make your own opportunities right now. We talk about education, our teachers' jobs being outsourced by technology and Khan Academy and things like that. We talk about the pressure on teachers right now and the way that education might turn and pivot in the future. And we talk about how, the types of support that kids are typically receiving these days in the public education system is just different than it used to be back in the day. And then I sort of launch into a call about how we need mentors more than ever before in every setting and every aspect of life, in business and church and school and home, in the neighborhood, all over the place. We need mentors more than ever before. Listen, if you're interested in becoming more of a mentor figure in your community, listen in on this episode and also get in touch with me. I can, maybe point you to some resources that I know of. We can have some conversations and chop it up and just share some ideas about how you can begin to, build some relationships and pour into and speak life into the younger lives around you, especially if you've had a little taste of success and you've got some wisdom to share. Now's a great time to reach back and sort of grab the arm of someone who's behind you, in age-wise in life, and share some of what you've accomplished, some of what you've learned. We need that now more than ever. So without further ado, let's get ready to listen in. Of course, taking copious amounts of notes on this third and final part of our interview with Pastor Mark Dunn, here only on the Daddio Show weekly podcast series, brought to you by Partner with Greatness. As we round the corner towards the end here, not to end on a dismal note or anything, but just kind of be wise and know what to look for the young people specifically. We've talked about what good influences look like and the kind of transparent, life relationship building, guiding type of, father or mentor role, what that looks and feels like. I think one of the greatest pitfalls in today's culture is where there is such a gulf and a gap and a lack of consistent father figures and mentor figures in young people's lives. They don't know how to read the influences that are around them, right? They don't know how to evaluate and identify, is this going to turn out well for me? Am I barking up the wrong tree? Am I following the wrong leader here? Am I being a follower or am I just casually sort of partaking of something that I can easily walk away from? Yada, yada. What do you think are maybe one or two sort of sneaky pitfalls or negative influences that young people may not realize, what they're actually getting involved with today?
Well, I think you hit a really strong point there. And, the broad category of that would be one of the things we need to teach young people is people skills. I mean, some discernment, but also some way of building those skills too.
Yeah.
Even at their youngest point, and again, sometimes I was a minister, and so they didn't have much choice. But when my children were little, if I would tell them, if someone speaks to you, you have to answer. You cannot hide behind my leg and be shy. If, for example, if my son were 5 years old and you walked up and said hi, I would expect him to say hi back. Now, we taught the stranger danger thing. That's a whole different subject. But
Yeah.
learning those people skills, how to interact with people, and in time, learning how to discern, good influence from bad influence. And unfortunately, there's no way to learn that without occasionally getting burned. But teaching that this may look like it's okay to you, but here's what you should see. Here's how that could be manipulation rather than true friendship.
Right.
But I think there's a strong need for people to have that people skill. And every study you read now, particularly for millennials and Z's, I mean, it's heartbreaking at the level of disconnectedness they have compared to my generation. And I'd read early on that some of the best managers in the business world were C average students, that the excelling student didn't have the people skills. They had the book knowledge. They were the person you wanted to develop this product, but they couldn't handle a manager's meeting to bring other people along. But the guy who had was more average and rounded. Maybe I use that as an excuse for my grades, but in that, what I took from that reading was long term, one of the keys you're going to need is this ability to interact with other people, to learn to read people, to learn to start to discern those signals, to be able to connect, communicate, and put yourself in a situation. And so, I find myself oftentimes going into rooms and situations and environments where I know no one. I'm the only person. And there's 60 people there who have some commonality. I might walk into a funeral where I didn't know people, and I've been asked to a funeral. I don't know, the people, and I have to go in and meet them and connect. And so I found that I really think one of the keys to getting through those pitfalls is learning to have people skills, learning to discern that environment, and kind of read some of those cues. Is this a good connection for me? Am I really receiving from this friendship or from this relationship? Is this a right path? If I see this person's decision making and how they're acting, is that really wise discernment? And start to have that knowledge. Teaching, it's easy to tell a young person that that's a bad influence, that's a wrong relationship. Unfortunately, that tends to not work. It doesn't drive them from that relationship. It tends to make them want to try to prove us wrong, or I can hang in there. So somehow we've got to try to teach them that discernment skill and that connectedness, where they can build a relationship with people and start to realize that one's positive, that one's not positive. And sometimes even on the one that's not positive, doesn't mean I completely go away, but it means my boundaries are different than the ones that I have with this relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Having the contrast of saying, excuse me, yeah, over here. So, let's think about our relationship with Uncle Mark, or whoever that's a positive, fixture in our lives here. How can you picture that guy saying what this guy over here is saying to you? No, you couldn't. So what does that mean? Yeah, that contrast and relief thing, that's huge. Ooh, that's I'm gonna have to just let that sizzle, man. I'm gonna have to marinate on what you just said there for a while. I think what I took away on the front end though, just in the moment, is if I can involve a kid in the evaluation process of, like, can you explain to me, how you think this is a positive influence or a negative influence, and then we'll bounce some ideas back and forth. We're having a conversation versus me preaching at you and say,
Yes.
don't you go over there and hang out with Susie because clearly a negative influence because I said so, right?
Right.
I
And
think,
unfortunately, we tend to sometimes revert to that, but and there's no data that I've seen that really proves that's working as much as what you said. Let's evaluate. Why do you think that's, working and positive? And again, that's back to that risk factor. If you could live a life without risk, it probably would be pretty dull. I mean, there are going to be times you're going to get burned even by the relationship you think is a good one. But learning to make those evaluations, I think, is one of the best things we can mentor young people in, because, we don't know what career they're going to choose. We don't know what path they're going to go. But one thing we know is they're going to live in a world full of people. I mean, 7 billion and growing, and knowing how to interact with other people is going to go till the end of their life. I mean, they may not be a mathematician to the end of their life. They may not be an athlete to the end of their life, but they're going to be interacting with people from here till the end. And learning how to do that well and to navigate good relationships, bad relationships, really, that's more gold than 2 or 3 degrees in the long run. I mean, I'm not
right.
against the degrees. I like the idea of the degrees, but in the long run, the person who can interact with people. I mean, a lot of people have gotten management positions because of how they interacted, not because of what was on a diploma or a resume.
Yeah, that's huge. One of the, excuse me, one of my favorite things to say that reminds me of that is, don't get replaced by a robot. What are the skills that a robot can't do that you can do, that make you valuable, that make you adaptable, make you, a crucial part of your society. I think that relationship navigation and learning to evaluate your influences, that's right in there, man. Don't get replaced by a robot.
You would like what my uncle said. My uncle used to say, the best way to make sure you have a job is to make one.
Ooh, that guy was an entrepreneur, huh?
His point was, is if you're making one, you can never lose it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so, again, that life requires some degree of risk taking, but it always says, I'll find a way. I've got something I can do.
man, man. Our, I don't think you can see it, but back where that chair is, sorry, frog in my throat. There's a table there. It's this beautiful rustic wooden table, and this pastor down in Richmond made it, and he just builds it to raise money for mission outreach work, mission trips and stuff for
Cool.
his congregation to take that fundage and launch and do outreach and stuff. But I was thinking, what an awesome little trade skill to have polished up at all times, and if he needed to. And I don't think the man upstairs would be too mad at him if he had to, because his wife got furloughed or something. He had to start using some of that picnic table money to supplement his household income in times of need. I think that's just good husbandry of your skills, and like your uncle was saying, like you use a risk taking approach to your advantage and make your own security. It's kind of a sobering look around, our communities these days in the midst of this pandemic to see people, being driven by fear instead of by confidence. And I think there's creativity and resourcefulness there available for us if we just kind of can relax enough to start to engage in those new ways of thinking and kind of create our own opportunities a little bit more.
And the time to make your own opportunity is in this day and age is so phenomenal. I mean, because the internet, in some regards, makes you equal to anyone.
Right.
Just the other day, I got on Fiverr looking for someone to do a project with me, and me going there, and there's the person who can take your YouTube video and sign language it to you and send you back a split screen. And you're like, okay, that's leveraging what they already have,
Yeah.
and making a little extra to it. I know some teachers that do the online teaching, tutoring with foreign students, get up early in the morning and do
Yeah.
that. And they're making 20 and plus an hour, just a little added to that.
Yeah.
But you just think, the opportunity now has expanded greatly with technology. I mean, you can still go out as a 14-year-old kid and get a push mower and a weed eater and make money in any neighborhood in America.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also sit right here in a room with a computer and do business internationally. I mean,
Right.
it's phenomenal.
Excuse me. Yeah, and it makes you. It kind of puts part of your job as a teacher. I hope teachers are listening to this right now. You know, we can't let ourselves be completely just like a human Khan Academy. As far as the information delivery aspect of our jobs, we're already being outsourced and replaced. And I think these coaching skills that Mark and I have been talking about today of, mentoring and coaching, speaking into the lives and the decision making and the character growth of the young people that are in our charge, that's the timeless skill that we need to make sure we're strong in and ready to use at any time, because things are changing by the minute. And I'm not saying any teaching jobs will be affected directly by what's going on, may or may not be, but I think if you kind of peel back the layers, that's the one thing, that a Khan Academy or information delivery or self-paced online learning or any of those programs or aspects can, that's what they can't replicate is, you have relationships that you've built with young people and they trust you enough to listen to you when you say, hey, let's evaluate the things that are going on and the direction your life is taken and your approach and your future. Let me speak a vision over your life and let you know that I see that you can become more than you currently are. Can we do those things? Have we gotten so pressured into the little academic chute where, we think that our job is only to, honor academics, which are great, but that we lose sight of that other half of the equation that's part of our calling, part of our job.
Well, I think teachers have it extremely tough. I mean, again, at my age, I can look back at some differences. And my mother was a teacher for 30 plus years. And you think, and I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but there's an awful lot of pressure on the teacher to meet so much on an academic level.
Huge.
That I think it's robbed the teacher of some of that, what used to just be natural mentorship.
Yes.
There was so much more, and again, there's a whole different world, but in my youth, there was such a different connection often to the teacher. It's not that we weren't trying to reach certain academic, points, but there was also, it's maybe what felt more like more time to have personal connection or life connection or understanding of who you were. And
Yeah.
and so I look at that versus the time even of my children's education, and the teachers that my children still talk about and look at, and some of them they follow on Instagram, were the ones that found a way to kind of get past just the information delivery and really incorporate life and make those connections. Those are the ones they're still talking about post college.
Yeah.
There were an awful lot of academic teachers. There were a number of teachers in there, but those ones that made that kind of life connection that broadened that spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think you all have such a pressure now that keeps pushing you back in that one lane, just because of the time and the structure and the all the standards you're supposed to meet. I think it's just tough. I think the environment is unbelievable. The support that you had when I was a kid in the 70s versus what you have now in this generation.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's good to hear your perspective because I grew up in a different time than you did, and yeah, it's interesting how things do kind of come around in a circle in education. Though right now, there is starting to emerge this push towards customized, individualized education and mentor time and like advisory time. And alternative schools are really at the leading edge of that kind of thing, creating that experience. Which of course our smaller class sizes, our student to teacher ratio is conducive to that. We're able to sort of have this unfair advantage really in the alternative setting to steward our time a little differently and create those opportunities and drive some of that other side of the coin versus like pure academics, all 24/7 type of thing. I think it'll come back around. It's an interesting puzzle. I don't know. There's a teacher shortage, and yet we need like a better student teacher ratio. We need more individuals. It's like all the time my eyes are just seeing things that confirm we need mentors, man. We need people not just in the school setting, not just in the church setting, through all the systems and businesses and all the settings and neighborhoods of the world, and especially in this country where folks who are a little farther along the path in life need to be dedicating a certain amount of their time and energy reaching back and pouring into someone that's younger than them. I mean, because even if no one mentored you that you can think of, or you don't think you had advantages or blessings given to you that you didn't deserve, is that really the kind of world that you want to perpetuate? I mean, I think eventually even hardened hearts have to thaw when we think about what kind of a culture and society are we trying to build here. Do we want to live in one and leave a legacy behind where it's a world of mentorship and genuine relationships and building each other up and fostering those community connections? Do we want that or not? Time is so precious, dude. Time is so precious.
I think there's definitely the possibility for, I don't know, let's call it the Uber mindset, the SpaceX mindset of education, a real paradigm shift. And the problem is, when Uber first came out, taxi drivers fought it, and certain cities even were lobbied by taxi drivers. So they put laws and rules to stop it,
right,
rather than seeing this is the way something's going. And so, I'm sure there's going to be, even out of this time, I mean, you think how much education now was shifted to a video focus. Will that change that? Will that allow for more mentorship and much more academics, pipeline by, who knows? What if you take the 3 best algebra teachers in Fayette County and they start teaching all algebra video, but at the building you have people that are more life involved mentors, and so they're saying, listen, you need the algebra, but here's why, because this is what's next in life. I mean, who knows what comes out of this, but it's only inevitable that going forward something happens. But I get it. We all have that there. I mean, I shouldn't say we all, because some of us, like you and I, are ready to jump, but there's always people who are, troubled by change.
Yeah. I think that's a great litmus test. That simple question you just mentioned there. Can you say to a young person that you're teaching skills to, here are the skills I think you need, and here's why I think you need them. Here's why it relates to your life and why it's useful to you. Like everybody wants to, know what's in it for me, kids, adults alike. We really have a lot more of the same needs, fears, mindsets than we care to admit sometimes. Like we need the same things the kids do and vice versa. And I don't know why we compartmentalize things so much. And we like if we flipped it around and we put ourselves through the same experience that we're asking a young person to go through under our supervision, like how would that work out? I'm not condemning or saying good or bad, but I think that kind of keeps you real. Like you said, if we're going to say it, let's be real. Can you really flip it around in your mind and feel good about what's going on?
I think it all kind of comes back a little bit to, there is that sense that this is an adventure. You can try to push that off, sanitize it, wall yourself in, whatever you want, but the real way to live it's to embrace that.
Yeah, I wore my Yosemite shirt and my camo shorts here because I knew I was going to be talking to a fellow adventurer today. So got suited up with the good stuff here, baby.
Totally, man. We might as well live it. I mean, we might as well live it. You know, it doesn't mean you won't be afraid, but man, it's worth it. It's worth it.
It so is, you know. Whew, I could talk to you about that all day. Well, Mark, what's the next big adventure? You know, you got any projects on the horizon? You got anything that you're going to get back into or that you're going strong with? Tell us Mark's current or next big adventure right now.
Well, I'm kind of big on my bucket list, you know.
Yep.
And so there's some things I've knocked off some of the easier ones, and by easier meaning they didn't take as much commitment as much as they took money. You know, seeing the Great Wall took money. It didn't take as much commitment.
Right.
Now skydiving took a little bit much more risk, but again, it was more money based. So, you know, now we're into like one of the things on my bucket list said to play an instrument. So I had to take lessons. I got to where I could play about 5 songs on violin. Then when I could do that, you know, I was like, okay, that one's off. So, you know, now we're getting to harder ones like advanced degrees, write a book, possibly learn another language, and at my age, learn another language. You know, all of those are still out there on the horizon and they never go away. I never stop thinking about them. And then this video platform that's really pushed forward through this virus is increasing to a level. I think it's for my profession, it's not going to back down. I mean, you know, we have 3 times the amount of people watching our service than we had attending on some of our Sunday services.
Wow.
And I'm getting people from other states saying, man, I wish you had a Bible study. I wish you had some, which is surprising because I can find you a bunch of people that don't even want to listen to me for, you know, the first sermon, but I have some who are asking for, you know, different experiences. So I'm looking into, you know, how would that happen going forward? What would be the format? You know, what works? And we had looked into a one idea of having a coffee time somewhere here in town, of meeting with people who might have a question about faith, but not really want to be caught in a church or, you know, having to put information down or avoid that setting. So we thought maybe just meet people at a coffee house. Well, now we're thinking maybe we do that digitally. So looking at how that digital world can be used more and more positively. That's probably the most current thing on the horizon.
Yeah. Well, I may be able to share some feedback or some observations with you because I just reached out to a young lady who was a student of mine in the past, and I've just been kind of interacting with her on Facebook and just asked her, you know, just curious if I did like a 4-week, 20-minute per session once a week Bible study, was that something you want to be involved in? And she was like, dude, yeah, I've been feeling myself, you know, distancing myself from the Lord, and I don't like that. I haven't, you know, been, you know, connecting with the church family as much anymore. So I'm really glad you asked me. So I was like, woo! So I think it's going to be maybe 5 to 10 people kind of in her age group, you know,
cool.
Where from, I don't know if I'm going to do minors or if I'll just do like kind of 18 to 25 age group, maybe somewhere in there. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. And it's my first time it's like, I'm not a youth pastor, bro. Like I consider myself still a learner very much when it comes to scripture. But you know, I've been in the Word every day for a long, good streak, you know, in 2020. And it just kind of bubbled out. You know how it is, like you're the same wiring as me. It's like, oh, like this person popped into my mind and this idea popped into my mind. And then before I know it, I'm just asking them, let's go on an adventure, you know?
Yeah. How am I going to do it? I got to do it.
You got to. And I told my wife, and she was just like, not like, she wasn't like, you're an idiot, but she was like, bro, one more project, really? You want to take on one more thing? And you know, this isn't going to just be 20 minutes of your time. And I so love her companionship, and the compatibility of the differences there. She's A and I'm B, like 100%. So I rely on her to help me sort of filter some of the spontaneity, so I don't just get like way out there in orbit. But
oh yeah, because I can find myself wanting to do everything. Like, oh, we could do that idea. We could do this idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. If you have any suggestions for me, after we get off this call, love to hear them. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I think big things are going to move in the process of this little short form Bible study, and I'm cooking up my ideas of just like what would a person who's totally unchurched and like just doesn't know about faith and is kind of just looking at it sideways from over here, maybe a little curious about what it is, what it means, what would that person want to know, and what would be a easy enough inroad that makes sense to them and kind of applies to what they want to experience, what they want out of life. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Cool. I'm looking forward to hearing how that goes.
Yes, sir. Well, Mark, dude, I appreciate your time so much. You're a busy dude, and I love you. I love your friendship. I love having you in my life, and I appreciate, just the light that you share with the world, with everybody in Lexington, and you're an inspiration to me, man. Do you have any parting words that you want to lay down before we close this out?
I don't know. I truly value the friendship. And I really appreciate your encouragement always, your kindness. So I want to thank you for that. I mean it. I think you're in a great spot, and what you do is fabulous, and I mean, your connection with people that I may never be able to connect with, I face a limitation. I'm hoping that I find ways to get out past that, and my personality gets me out past it. But I face a limitation that comes with being a minister.
Yeah.
There's a natural wall around that in some circles, whereas you don't have it. And so the influence, the spectrum that God has given you is phenomenal. So I'm excited that you see it that way, that you're willing to embrace that adventure and walk on that wild side, I guess. So
yeah, absolutely, man. That's a good way to put it. I appreciate that encouragement. That's a breath of fresh air, because as you know, even the most like adventuresome or extroverted or whatever people can feel discouragement from time to time. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Lots of people who are doing the right thing sometimes say, "Is this worth it?" Well, it's worth it. You're doing the right thing.
It's awesome, man. Mark Dunn, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you so much, brother. Until next time, young champions, I believe in you. Have a good one.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, sir. See you, man.